to my channel. Today we're gonna have like a little sit down like girly pop talk because I posted this video on TikTok talking about things I wish I would have done / not done prior to turning 30, and a lot of people resonated with that video. It got quite a good amount of views and comments and whatnot, and so as being divorcee people, divorcees, I feel like we could just have like a really good sit down like podcast-esque kind of moment where we're just like talking about whatever and see where it goes and just kind of like talk shit.
And besides that, we asked you on our Instagram.
We did.
We put up the question box and we just have to be honest. We love you. We love you. But nobody gave us good suggestions.
I
don't understand. Do you guys just not want to have your names out there?
Yeah.
As to maybe I feel like that's it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe like people wanted to be more anonymous, and so like they felt weird saying things on the public Instagram, which is fair.
We tried.
Yeah.
We tried to ask the people. The people didn't respond.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get more like raunchier questions.
I did too.
Sure. And we didn't. So I was like, wow, okay, that's kind of interesting. So you know what? We're like, well, we're raunchy, so we might as well just go on for it and just have a little chit chat girly talk. So the thing that most people like resonated with was regretting getting married before 30.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's a common thing?
Yes.
I literally just don't do it. We were talking about this earlier too, like when you're 24 or 25, like your frontal lobe,
particularly men.
Yes, is just like not developed.
And that's science.
It is. Like we're not just making that up. Like that is how it is. And I just feel like the person that I was at 24 compared to 30 is like legitimately an entirely different person. Like I don't even know who that is.
No. Okay, we have to clarify. So I've been married twice.
Okay.
And
I've been married once.
Is that being married twice is really, I feel like it's a stigma. Like I hate even saying that.
Yeah.
My first marriage, I was a teenager.
Yeah.
It doesn't count. So I feel like that doesn't count. I eloped. It doesn't count.
For sure.
I have to clarify too when we're talking about this, because my first husband, that was the abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to get that mixed up with my second marriage, Ari's father.
Yeah.
Because I admire him a lot. And,
for sure.
And I totally respect him. So yeah, just to clarify when we're talking about here.
Yeah, we're not mixing up the partners. I feel like I only was married once, so everyone will kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so everyone knows what you're talking about.
To be expected, but like, whatever, it is what it is. So like, okay, so this is a question that I actually got asked a lot. Like, why did you, because I kind of have made some like comments here and there, and I've, said some little like, because I try not to like put their shit out on the internet too much, because I know how that feels, right? Like, just like everyone else, just talk shit in private, okay? Like,
talk shit in private. I have never either about him as well.
Right.
My story, yes. Your story is your story, and I think you should be allowed to talk about your story. But even as like a shit person that he was, I still have never said his name. Never said anything like that.
Try to just like protect a little bit of the privacy. But when you got married, I would say both times, and I can speak for myself because I know, were there things that like you thought of in your head, like, oh, this is kind of, I'm not sure if this is going to work? Like, did you have doubts before you got married at all?
Let me see. The first time, no, because I was delulu, because I was a teenager.
Okay, fair.
Also, I eloped. Also, let's put in the layer of church.
Okay.
So that was,
we'll get into that.
That was the first issue there, was the whole reason I even was doing that, because like we weren't supposed to be doing that.
Okay.
Stupidest, but again, you're a teenager.
Like
18, like
I'm
just gonna elope and show everybody, like everybody can fuck off.
Yeah.
So yeah, the second time, no, I definitely thought it was gonna work.
Okay. Yeah. And that's interesting, because I have an opposite story. Like I actually, in the moment, both like getting married and prior to getting married, like I knew deep down that it was not going to work. And that's kind of like a hard thing to admit, because I think people are like, well, you're a fucking idiot. Why did you do that? Right? And like, yes, you are correct. That was a dumb decision.
It is not going to change anything except for make it worse. Especially if you don't have a strong foundation. Especially if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to throw. I don't understand why women still think this. I get, okay, I understand because you think, oh, it's a child that you're making together that you're going to bring into this world together. And so, yes, initially it's that happy moment. The bliss. It's just like honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
The bliss phase, but also
no, it doesn't. Like those things, if you're like thinking to yourself, well, if we just get to blah, 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 then blah, blah, blah. And honestly, like from every divorced person that I've talked to, a lot of them have felt the same way. Like they were like, oh, well, I thought this would fix it, or I thought that would, bring us closer, or blah. And
which does logically make sense.
Like you have that, I think I mentioned this in a YouTube video actually not too long ago, like I actually think my fear of failure and being like embarrassed was what made me want to try so hard, because I didn't want to admit that I was wrong. Like I went into this situation thinking like, oh, this is a perfect happy family and this is what I want, and being in the Midwest, which is a very conservative religious trauma, no less, like not even just religious, like so many of those people are dealing so much with religious trauma they don't even know it.
Oh, for sure.
And like having all of that kind of be like your environment, I didn't want to like take a step back and realize like, wow, I fucked up, that was not for me, you know. So I just tried until you like really can't do it anymore, and eventually it just falls apart. And so I feel like if you have those doubts, like there's a reason essentially why you have them.
Intuition.
Yeah, which I didn't even really think I had until that. I feel like that's like, you learn that. But
you have to hone in on it too. Like, I feel like now my intuition is almost too good. As in like, when I meet somebody or whatnot, I can kind of instantly tell like, the vibe is off. The vibe's off. The vibe check. The vibe is off. Yeah,
absolutely. What do you think like is like to go into that with being like an instant vibe being off? Like what are some things that like you feel are instant?
I think for me personally, not everybody, but like you can feel energy. I know some people like don't believe, well, I don't know if that's the right word, but like I believe energy is a thing, right? Whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever you believe in, like we all have energy coming off of us at all times. And so I think if you really like, you also have to want to know
if they're right for you.
If like you have to not ignore red flags about people. And I think that's the thing, is that people want things to work out so bad that you completely ignore your intuition and you ignore maybe that energy or like red flaggy. I know that word is thrown around a lot now.
Or just like things that you notice.
Little things, like always be like checking like for things that you notice. So I would say definitely listen to whatever you call your intuition. But also just notice. So for me, like I will notice if somebody's like energy is just a little bit, but even it comes down to like in the way that what I look for now, which is huge for me, is looking for how somebody treats somebody else. If they are a shit human to a waiter.
Oh wait, I was gonna say waiter, waitress. That's a huge red flag.
A cleaning lady.
Oh yeah.
Anything like that. That's an instant kind of like.
Absolutely. I think, something that I've learned a lot of times people, I think this is kind of just like normal. People do this in the beginning. They're trying, to put on their best.
We all put on our best self.
Yeah, our best self. And
all of us.
I think an interesting thing about that I came on the other side of realizing was like, sometimes people have other like family members much more involved in their life than you really know. And so like, for example, I had someone who I didn't realize that their mom did 99.9% of the chores or the things like the laundry and the cleaning, and like, in the beginning it was like, oh, I'm going to get us this Airbnb because, I don't want you to be around my roommates and this and that. And like, for me at the time, I was like, oh, that's great. That's very considerate,
But anybody would look at that and say it's considerate.
Anyone would. Yeah, that's hard because then you're like, okay, I'm looking for red flags. Like, that's not really a red flag.
That's not a red flag.
But when you like look at it in hindsight, which is kind of like what inspired my video, like looking back on things, I'm like, wow, what an idiot, Like the reason for that is because certain people didn't want their partner to know that their mom is doing their laundry, their mom is cleaning their floors, because at the time you look at it and you're like, oh, it looks fine.
Yeah.
Because
why would you know that?
Why would you know that?
You wouldn't.
And when you learn certain things like that over time, I feel like, at least I like to try to make excuses for people and be like,
oh, for sure.
Well, maybe this and maybe that. And like, if you find yourself doing that, I think that's like, so if you can't, my point of like that story is if you are not able to see a red flag, but you're finding yourself like saying, oh, well,
making excuses for a person in your head to yourself.
Yes, to yourself. And that, I think, is the biggest, like, something is trying to tell you that it's not right for you. Because to somebody else, it might be fine.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care who does their laundry. They don't care who does, you know what I mean? Like, that may be not an issue. But, like, if that's something that you're trying to convince yourself of, and then you get later on down the line, like, that's never going to change. That's going to be something that keeps, like, coming up and coming up. Like, other issues that, like, will continue to pop up, I think, over time that people sometimes overlook. Sexuality.
Trying to be gay? I'm still trying to be gay.
Someone please hit up Jen.
Thank God my mother doesn't watch. Or sexuality is a big thing not to ignore. Mander knows about that, clearly. I do not, because that's...
Unfortunately, you like wiener, so that's a big bummer.
Yeah, bummer. I'm going to look at my two different marriages. The first one obviously was terrible, but there was a lot of religious trauma bound up in that.
Let's talk a little bit about religious trauma. I feel like that's something that a lot of people, that kind of goes hand in hand with sexuality. Not necessarily in your case, but a lot of people. For religious trauma, like what are some of the things that you feel really like stand out to you when you look back at some of the religious
So I was in that world of religion, hardcore, right? Like I come from a evangelical, the kooky, sorry, I was about to say sorry if I offended it, because I know, I get, like, my parents are great people. I always have to preface everything with, like, let's not blanket statement, it's not everybody. However, the evangelicals right now are really on one. It's you know, anyways, brought up in that world. So I didn't know anything different. I was definitely not, I wasn't one of those people who was so hardcore where I was like, oh, I hate gay people, or this is wrong. I was told it was wrong.
Right.
But I always, for some reason, still had a lot of empathy and compassion and would always have questions in my head, even as a teenager, like, but why? Like, why is it wrong? And I would try to ask questions, like, to my youth pastor, and it would be like, they would just tell you what to think. Or it would be like, well, yeah, you're allowed to ask questions, but kind of like, but if you don't come back around to the same thinking as us, it's still wrong.
Right.
And it's not until I became an adult and got out of that world that I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I actually have religious trauma, which even I have a hard time saying that now because it was my foundation.
Yeah, it's like how you grew up. Like, literally. Formative years are so...
It was everything. I was in youth group, and not to say that I didn't have a good time or, you know, I had some great times with, like, great people, but, like, the theology behind everything, when I got out of it, the answers that I was looking for myself really helped me out. And I think you have to do a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And you have to do a lot of digging for answers and actually researching things on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
On your own, not letting a pastor who is not qualified, interpret the Bible for you. Anyways, sex before marriage.
Of course,
huge. And I had sex before marriage.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I eloped was because I felt guilty.
Yeah.
People still out here, and this encompasses all religions, Mormons, all of the faiths. Sex before marriage is a big no-no, and come to find out, like, it's not even really like a thing in the Bible. Yeah. People just like made that up.
Yeah. As a side note, a lot of things in the Bible are interpreted
completely different, and it's all guilt. If it's fear-based, fear-based, guilt-based, meant to like control.
Yep.
I felt so guilty. I remember the first time I had sex, and I was a teenager, and I cried myself to sleep because I thought, I'm going to hell. I'm a terrible person. I'm a whore. Literally, I remember saying, I'm a whore.
Oh my God. I can't get it on, but I will never, because I was like you, a lot of questions, and the answer to me was, well, you just gotta have faith, or you just have to.
It's because they don't know.
They don't know how to answer you, and I, as an adult, I actually, truly experienced more religious trauma in that relationship because of the severity of the religion than I did even as like a childhood, like, Christian than my own parents.
Oh, yeah.
Because once I got to be like 18, I was like, that doesn't make sense, I'm out. And I just was like, you know, like it wasn't that big of a deal. I was like raised that way and then I was on my own and I didn't. But like as an adult, then you start getting into the hard questions, which I think kind of segues into my next topic about those severe differences in morals and upbringings. I just feel like it is so incredibly difficult to overcome that, because whether or not, like, you know, we were talking about something about abortion earlier this morning, and we were, you know, discussing how, like, what would you do if your partner all of a sudden, you know, like, explained that they just didn't support abortion or whatever the case was. It was opposite of what you believed. Right. And, you know, if you're adults and you can talk about this and you can have conversations, that's amazing. But at the end of the day, like, these issues are not just, it's not just abortion, right? Like, it's deeper than that.
So much deeper.
Yes. And I feel COVID was a huge example of this, because from what I experienced, I felt so many people were so selfish and didn't care about other people's health. And while that's in like a small bubble of COVID, that pattern of behavior, that thinking, that, you know, the way they treated people, I had people who literally hung out with me. They knew how I felt about COVID. And I had somebody hang out with me that lost their taste of sense and smell. Keep in mind, this is like beginning COVID, when everyone didn't know what was happening. It was like scary. Yeah. And she purposely came around me before my wedding, no less, didn't tell me. And then when I found out afterward, she was like, well, I didn't want to worry you. And I was like, what? And it was like, but that, it's not even just that, like, that is going to come up in so many other ways throughout your relationship if that's, like, how that person is. And, like, I don't think people realize that, like, when you're talking about abortion or you're talking about human rights or gay rights or whatever.
Don't get me started on the human rights.
Yes. Like, if you don't agree with that person,
it's a big thing, and love can be blind. At first, we all know the honeymoon phase. We all know, like, and I think that's a big mistake that people make, and I think we all have to check ourselves, because we all have the same hormones running through us when we fall in love, which is been shown that makes us blind. Love is blind. The cloudy decisions, and after that, like, post-nut clarity, like, you, at the end of the day, if you have different morals, values, it's not going to work, because then you're going to bring children in, or one of you has to, I don't want to say compromise, but like you close off your own morals, or you shut down on yourself and what you really believe in. And eventually, it's not going to be suppressed forever. And it will come out somewhere.
It's kind of like how I feel about like sexuality and morals and religion and religious trauma and like all of these things. Like, you can talk through them and you can be like, okay, like, you know, I see that, but like I don't agree, whatever. But like as you go on and you realize later on down the line, like, I really believe that like that cannot work. I just don't think I've ever seen a successful relationship where it's like that. Or the other thing I've seen and I've witnessed with my own two eyes, which I think is very interesting, is a couple who's been together, high school sweethearts, let's say, they're like 50-some years old, they don't fucking talk to each other. And you look at the relationship from afar and you're like, oh, their parents are still married, they're still together, they love each other, blah, blah, blah. That's perfect. That person, that's their kid, must have the greatest view of relationships. Come to find out, the husband has the wife blocked on Instagram, so she can't see his posts, and they don't have conversation. And you're like, oh, that's not it.
No, that's not it.
That's not it.
No, so many people well, you know what, too? It's like my parents are still married, been married forever. They actually are obsessed with each other, which is like the cutest. They are the reason that I still have like hope and love, is actually my parents.
That's cute.
However, like my mom, obviously she doesn't understand today's world and like social media and stuff, and she'll be like, well, you know, everybody stayed married back then. I'm like, Mom, but that's because it was unacceptable back then to get divorced. And women had to like shut up if they were being beat. If they didn't believe in the same thing. They also didn't have as much opportunity to make it on their own. That's still a thing. That's still a thing. So I'm like, it's not even a comparison. It's totally different. The amount of guilt I felt for getting a divorce. Because I am the one who finally left. Made to feel crazy. Everyone begged me, didn't understand why I was, even then when I finally came out and was just like, okay, but this is what's happening. First of all, I wasn't really believed. Second of all,
that's
because we were so steeped in the church. It was just like, I literally had a therapist, but now, granted, she was a Christian therapist, say to me, put your big girl panties on, basically, and stay. Yeah. It's ingrained in my head.
Oh my God.
To put your big girl panties on.
And I think that's so huge because that is something that a lot of people will, like, I talk a lot about toxic positivity, and that kind of is similar. I feel like it's like very heavily religious people, I feel like, do that.
Yes.
And it was the same way for me, like when I was expressing like disdain of some things, you know, like for example, for something for me that I've come to learn is very important is basic human hygiene. Like if you aren't going to the dentist and I have to drag you to the dentist to go, like I will never be more turned off than in that moment. And so like, you know, I would say certain things like that and people would be like, you should be really thankful that he's a good person and you have a good life, and it's funny because like you'll like gaslight yourself and be like, I guess you're right. And like again, now looking back, I'm like, no, I am not taking a grown adult to the dentist. Go to the dentist. What do you mean? And people will be like, that's like so petty. No, but it's not petty to me.
Right, to you.
Because going back to what we were saying, that's going to show up in a different way. It's not the dentist.
It's not about the dentist.
It's that you can't take initiative. It's that you have lack of responsibility. It's that you don't care about certain things when they're not working in your, you know, like.
Especially because if it's a little of a thing about the dentist.
Right.
What
about
that tiny thing about the dentist means so much more.
Some people always say the little things are the big things.
Yeah.
And that goes for bad things and good things though, because like, you know, when I started dating Miranda at first, I'll never forget, like when she came and visited me one time in North Carolina, Tuxie had just passed away and she was like doing the most. She was like literally carrying me on her back during that. And I remember I came out one morning and she was like sweeping, but like with a wet paper towel like in the corners, and I was like, why is she deep cleaning my house on a Tuesday? Like, what is she doing? And I just remember being like, wow, that is like, to me, that was like such a huge deal.
Major.
And I remember like, you know, some people at the time also.
But also, she's a woman.
She is a woman. So I don't know about many men be on their hands and knees. But you know, some people would say like, but that's like basics. Like everyone should be cleaning. That's not a big deal or something like that. But like, to me, it was a big deal. Yeah. Regardless of whether that was because I didn't have that before or because for whatever reason cleaning, like, it's not the cleaning, it's that she knows that that's important to me.
Important to you.
So she's doing it because she knows it's going to make me happy.
Correct.
And that shows up in other ways.
Absolutely.
And like those things I think people need to remember, like what's important to you, even if it's not important to someone else, like you need to be with somebody who knows what's important to you.
I completely agree. That's huge. Knowing what's important to each other and then following through on it. Yeah.
And not feeling guilty.
Not feeling guilty.
For whatever the things that are important to you are.
Yeah, and I will say in my second marriage, like I said, I still respect him. You know, he's Ari's dad and amazing dad. Never have to worry about her. Mm-hmm. We were just so different. And I didn't realize that because we were long distance.
That's huge.
No. Long distance.
Yep.
So we only really started living with each other after I had Ari. And so then, you know, when you're a Christian, you're not supposed to live with each other. Somewhere that's supposedly in the Bible that you can't live with someone until you're married. I'm like, the fuck is that in the Bible? There is nothing like that in the Bible.
I don't know.
Let's talk about in the Bible. There's also polyamory.
True.
And like and we should be dead. You and I. We should actually be killed on the street by stones. So there's that. Anyways,
that's a whole
nother YouTube. Yeah. So I just found out that we were even as lovely as a person and good of a man that he is.
Yeah.
And I will never say anything bad about him because we're still great co-parents. We do things together with Ari for her sake, but we're just so different.
Yeah.
And you can be, like they say, opposites attract, which I believe.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a balance in opposites attract.
Yeah.
I think you can be too opposite.
Yes.
And we literally started going like this and doing the story of like doing nothing together, because I would be like, can you just do this with me?
You have to ask.
Can you just sit on the couch with me and watch Netflix?
Yep.
Like,
absolutely.
And that wasn't important to him.
That's what I'm saying. If that's not important to him, but it's important to you, he either has to do that for you, or vice versa, or you have to accept that that's not going to be the case. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be some kind of compromise or whatnot, and it doesn't make, like you said, doesn't make them a bad person.
No, he's not a bad person. And that's why I almost felt like so guilty too about how still do have a lot of guilt about that, because I thought, failure number 2. Yeah. Even though I discount the first one. Yeah. We don't count. Still a big failure. Yeah. You feel like I failed. And also to the outside world, there was really nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong. And he's a great person. He's a great guy. And like, what? Like you're being like that petty, like, which I didn't even really discuss it with. I learned my lesson of not discussing and sharing with the world things. And we tried. We went to therapy. His family is fucking amazing. I still love his family. Yeah. Everything seems great. Yeah. But that's why you really have to learn to be strong in yourself and your decisions. Yes. Because it can get the best of you, and we could have just stayed doing miserable, and only because of pride. Like, I really had to put my pride down, because it was me, if we're being honest, being like, I'm not sure that, you know, we need to go to therapy first. Do everything you can first, especially if you still, like, I still have love for him. Of course. I still have respect for him. But you have to put down your pride to really be like, okay, is this really what I want? And you have to get past all the, what is everyone going to think?
Oh, that's the hardest one.
Failure. Now you're a failure. I could have stayed in the safety of being, because there is safety.
Starting over is terrifying.
Starting over fucking again. Is terrifying. So it's, and not to say that that's been perfect either, because it certainly is not perfect starting over. No. As you know, nothing is perfect, but.
Would you say that there was like one specific moment that you just like knew that you needed, like that, like it was one specific thing that happened that you were just like, the last straw, basically, that you knew it wasn't going to work? Or was it just kind of like a slow?
I think it was more of a slow burn, as in like I would just start to notice things, notice more that we weren't doing the same things, so it wasn't like one moment. Communication, I think that was a big issue. Completely different communication styles. And if you don't work on that, you know, I was definitely not perfect either, so I'm definitely not here to say that.
Yeah, of course.
It was both of us. It was definitely both of us. It was definitely me too. But like over time, I think I just, as women do, we kind of shut down. Yeah. And then we're like, it's true. Once a woman is tapped out, we're tapped out.
I think that's another thing too. People don't realize like how long before you actually get divorced, where you're like out of.
We talk about that.
Oh my God.
Even though we know this is logical, right? We all know this is logical. That people don't wake up one day and go,
"I'm gonna get divorced today."
Time to get divorced today. No, and then you get shit on
so bad,
and women even more so than men.
100%. You could even date your ex's best friend of 4 years, and no one cares. But God forbid you date someone else.
That's a true story.
That is a true story.
However, yes, women get the shit of the shit. Yeah, like my exes looked at as probably he's so great. He's a great dad. He's a girl dad. Right. Look at him doing all of these things, which I applaud too. And I'm not saying I don't applaud that. Right. As soon as he goes to date, I don't even know if he's dating. No problem. Yeah. No problem. No. When I go to date, huge problem. Huge problem.
Big problem.
Big. We got problems.
Too fast.
Too fast. Too soon. Even though we literally have not been together for over 2 years, and it's been like, and even when we were married, it was a good year that we were not together.
At least. That's why I don't think people grasp unless they have been divorced. Like, I literally knew that we were going to get divorced probably 8 or 9 months before like the paperwork even was started. Like it was just like, so like people don't realize, you know, like you're sleeping in separate rooms. Yeah. The internet doesn't know that.
Doesn't know that.
So like we don't know how long you've been checked out out from a specific phase to where it makes it easier for you to move on because you're already done with that.
That's why I never judge anybody. It's totally. It is true. Once you like have walked in the actual shoes, it's like your judgment for situations like that goes out the window.
Absolutely.
People. And it's like, I don't know that situation. I don't know how long you've been tapped out.
Yeah.
You want to date? Go date.
Yeah.
But like, the other thing about women, majority of the time of divorces, it is women who pull the trigger.
Yeah,
I forget the percentage. It's a huge percentage that women are the ones who have to pull the trigger because men are too comfortable. They don't want to look like the bad guys. And basically, yes.
Oh, you're going to take that?
Oh, you like the scrunchie?
Okay.
Okay. Women have bigger balls than men. When it comes to things like that.
Yeah, big life changes, decisions, and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. And
so the women are the one that have to do it.
Yeah, and then we look like the bad guy.
And then we look like the bad guy because they don't want to look like the bad guy.
Yeah, and I think like another thing too is people like don't realize how much stuff we. I don't want to speak for all, but like at least from the people like myself and you, people that I know that have gone through divorces, like how many things that we've tried to change, fix, make work, therapy. Like I literally paid for so much therapy. Like try because we don't want to be like that. We don't want to be like that. But then it happens, and that's another thing too that I've come to learn out of the situation is just from being divorced is that like. There's no right or wrong time in the sense of like how long you need to be single after a divorce, how long you should be married before you get divorced. That was a huge one for me because I wasn't married very long. At least you had a pretty long length of time.
Yeah, I think
so people will say like that's not a long time or like whatever, but it is. It is. And the other thing too is like kind of what we said at the beginning. The person that they are before you get married is who they are. And like I think people get married and like then they realize that and it sets in. And for me it was more of just like, okay, I can see how this is going to be for the next 20 years and I know that it's not going to change. So I can't, like, it's not going to work.
Right.
And like I have so much more empathy now for people who have been in that situation because like I know the celebrities and the internet and whatever, like people judge people for how long they were married before they got divorced or how long they were single before they got in a relationship after divorce, and like who the fuck cares?
Yes.
Literally who cares?
Right. Well, yeah, that was a big for me. So
yeah,
I don't judge the whole dating thing anymore either. So
I feel like you just do what you want. Just do what you want in this life.
Y'all know this world is going to shit.
We have nothing left anymore.
It is an election year. We're about to be fucked over.
God help us all.
I am so nervous for what's to come this election year. Do what you fucking want.
Yeah.
Within we're not.
Right.
It's a good preface it with like,
it is.
Don't
murder people.
Don't murder people.
Yeah.
We're saying live your life because like if there's one thing that I'm seeing, especially with like all the Palestinian things going on and all of that, like life is fucking short. Yeah. And I've known people within this past couple months that have died, and we're talking people's 30s, 40s, like that overnight.
Yep.
And it kind of Myra, literally just within minutes.
Yep.
Someone else that I just know, same thing. Literally just, and it is a wake up call when it hits home. Of like, what are you doing with your time?
Yeah.
And why are we wasting time pretending to be people who we aren't?
Yep.
And not doing things that we want.
Yep.
Which is why I travel everywhere to see my friends because I love people and I love my friends and and people still give me shit about that.
Oh, for sure.
Which is fucking weird.
It's so weird. We're going to have something to say about everything when you're on the internet. But no, you make a good point. I feel like it's just, reminding people that like at the end of the day, if you're asking yourself these questions all the time, should I stay? Am I in the right relationship? Am I gay? Am I...
If you're asking yourself if you're gay, you're gay.
Probably gay.
Because
I think the answer to that is actually that is as a funny just little like ending side note. That is actually to answer my own question I asked you about like did you ever have a moment? That was one moment I realized holy fuck this is not gonna work.
Yeah.
I made one statement and I'll never forget it. I said the conversation happened and we were talking about somebody and so said, oh, did you know she came out as bi? And I was just like very like okay, and like who cares, whatever, and they were like, oh, well, like very like shocked that this person came out as bi, and I just like very casually, I was like eating a little snack, and I was like, well, all girls are a little gay.
This is true.
Like I was kind of joking, but I was like also serious.
No, on the spectrum, all girls. I am definitely attracted to females. I think females are beautiful.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous. Their bodies are definitely top tier over men's bodies any day. Totally. But do I have like sexual attraction? That's a different thing.
Right. But I will die on this hill. Like,
no, I believe
that it is a spectrum, and that, you know, you can be very, very straight or very, very gay. Yes. I think that you fall somewhere. There's no black and white. And when that came out of my mouth, it was literally like I started World War III. It was like the most insane, asinine thing I have ever said. And how could you ever? And it was at that moment that I realized, like, oh my God. Like, how did I end up here, you know? And I had like certain people in that environment, you know, say something very, very homophobic or transphobic, and like it started big fights with me. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like this is not where I belong. And like once you accept that and you're like, okay, like this is not who I am, that's what you need to like hold on to, like figuring out what it is that's so important to you, what you really believe in. Yeah. Going with that, it's scary as fuck, but when you do it is like the best and most freeing thing that you could ever possibly do.
And the biggest compliments that I'll ever get to is that, like, I wish I was as free spirit as you, and I always take that. Me. People said that.
Oh, okay. I was like, bitch, what?
This bitch stays inside. I don't know. She's not going anywhere. You're right. See, for me, I am a definite free spirit, and people say, no, I think that's part of your personality too, obviously. But like that to me is the biggest compliment, because I'm like, and that's also maybe why it's hard for me to find like a partner too.
You just need to find a fellow free spirit that will do these things with you. And and that's the same thing. I like to be in my house. Miranda and I get so pumped when people cancel plans on us. We're like, fuck yes, we are the ultimate homebodies. We love to do nothing together.
And then you know what, I tell people that about you too. I'm like, no. You think you're a homebody?
Until you know manners.
Until you know manners. And when I say she's a homebody, this bitch isn't going anywhere ever. We're going, when I visit Manders, and I love it, this is why I love such a range of friends that I have. Yes. And I know when I come here, I'm gonna chill, I'm gonna watch her do content, I'm gonna watch her clean, I might help her clean, she's gonna teach me how to do makeup, we're gonna go to the grocery store, and we're gonna work out. And I love it. And we're gonna tan our tits, and I love it.
It's so true.
Yeah,
it's so true. And I love that, and I don't ever want to be made to feel like bad about that. And I did. It was always like you never leave the house, and you don't want to go to these social things. And I'm like, but that is literally who you are. I am. And I'll never forget one time my ex said to me, well, because I said, I told you I was a homebody. I'm talking day one. I don't like to leave my house.
And when someone says that, or says, I like to leave my house, believe them.
Yeah. And he goes to me, he goes, I know you said you were a homebody, but I didn't think you meant that kind of homebody.
Actual homebody.
Yes.
No, I think you and Kels might be.
I think she does a little more than me. She goes out. She does,
but it's pretty. Oh, that's right. She does sports.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go sports.
Yeah, you're right. You're at the top. You're definitely. You're
my greatest life.
I don't think I know anybody else's homebody as you, and that's okay. Like I appreciate that about you.
It's just who I am. I've been that way my whole life.
Yeah. I am not. I can be definite home. Like I love my space. I love my home.
You love your freedom.
But I love my freedom.
Yeah.
And I just need someone to dance with me.
You just 100%. That is what you need.
Yeah.
You need a fellow free spirited. Like let's go here, and here, and that's exactly the kind of person that I could see you with. Like very much so. Like just. Very.
You want to go like to Costa Rica tomorrow?
Let's go. Yes. Yeah, and like for me, that would legitimately be my worst nightmare. I'm like, no, we're not. I need an itinerary. I need to find her. I need to know a year in advance. Like, what do you mean?
No, I'd be like, a year in advance?
I know.
Bitch, no, we can go like in 2 days.
I know, it's so funny to like just have those differences. Oh, I love you as my friend too, because it's cool to have like a very, different things friends. But anyway, I love you so much. And I love just like chatting and like girl talking with you, because I feel like we've been through similar things.
Yes.
And like, we have so much like random life experience that
random. The most random.
We just give you the most random life experience.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it's good. I think it was a little good life combo. So let us know if you like these kind of videos. Next time Jen bebops around the United States, we'll do another.
Where in the world is Jen?
Yeah, where's Jen today? What topic do we have to talk about? So thank you for joining us on Chatting with Jen and Manders. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know if you did. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Click subscribe for the love of God. I'm just kidding.
Subscribe. I was going to say comment.
next Monday. Bye.